I almost didn't go to that appointment. I'd been putting off my annual physical for months, ignoring the reminder calls from Dr. Harrison's office, telling myself I was too busy with work to take a morning off. But my best friend Maya had been relentless. "Nathan, you're 28 years old, you need to take care of your health, just go, it's 1 hour out of your life." So there I was on a Tuesday morning in October, sitting in the waiting room of Metropolitan Medical Center, scrolling through my phone and half regretting giving in to Maya's nagging. "Nathan Cooper," a nurse appeared in the doorway, clipboard in hand. I followed her back through the maze of corridors, past examination rooms and offices, trying to remember the last time I'd actually been to a doctor. 2 years, 3. "Dr. Harrison retired last month," the nurse said as she took my blood pressure. "Dr. James Chen will be seeing you today. He's wonderful, very thorough. You're in good hands." "Great," I mumbled, though I was already calculating how quickly I could get out of here and back to work. The nurse left and I sat on the examination table, the paper crinkling beneath me, staring at the motivational posters on the walls. "Your health is your wealth," one proclaimed cheerfully. I was just reaching for my phone again when the door opened, and my entire world shifted on its axis. Dr. James Chen was beautiful, not handsome, beautiful. He was tall, maybe 6 feet, with dark hair styled perfectly, warm brown eyes behind fashionable glasses, and a smile that made my stomach flip. He wore a white coat over a crisp blue shirt and navy tie, and he moved with the kind of confidence that suggested he was very, very good at his job. "Mr. Cooper, I'm Dr. Chen, it's nice to meet you." He extended his hand, and when I shook it, I felt that spark, the one you read about in romance novels but never actually experience in real life. "Nathan," I managed, hopping. My voice sounded normal. "You can call me Nathan." "Nathan, then?" His smile widened slightly, and I noticed the way his eyes crinkled at the corners. "I see from your chart that it's been a while since your last checkup. What finally brought you in today?" My friend threatened to stage an intervention if I didn't come. He laughed, a warm, genuine sound that made my chest tight. "Sounds like a good friend. Well, let's make sure we give her good news to report back with. How have you been feeling generally? Any concerns or issues you want to discuss?" I should have been paying attention to his questions, should have been focused on the appointment. Instead, I was cataloging everything about him: the way his hair fell slightly over his forehead when he leaned forward to look at his tablet, the gentle way he touched my arm when guiding me through the examination, the small scar near his left eyebrow that I desperately wanted to ask about. "Nathan," he was looking at me with slight concern, "everything okay?" "Sorry, yeah, I'm fine, just didn't sleep well last night." The examination was torture in the best possible way. Every time Dr. Chen touched me, checking my lymph nodes, listening to my heart and lungs, examining my reflexes, I was hyper-aware of his proximity, his hands, the subtle scent of his cologne. "Your heart rate is a bit elevated," he said, his stethoscope pressed to my chest. "Are you feeling anxious about something?" "Yes, your hands on me, the way you smell. The fact that I'm attracted to my doctor, and this is incredibly inappropriate." "Just nervous about doctors," I lied. "That's completely normal." He made a note on his tablet. "But everything looks good so far. I'll need to do a few blood tests, just standard panels, and I want to schedule you for a follow-up in 2 weeks to review the results and discuss some lifestyle factors. Does that work for you?" 2 weeks? I'd see him again in 2 weeks. "That works," I said, probably too eagerly. "Great." He smiled at me again, and I felt my resolve crumbling. "Rebecca at the front desk will schedule that for you, and Nathan, try not to wait another 3 years before your next checkup, okay? Your friend was right to push you to come in." "I won't, thanks, Dr. Chen." "James," he said, and something flickered in his eyes. "When we're not in an official exam, you can call me James." I left that appointment in a daze, barely remembering to schedule the follow-up, walking back to my apartment in a fog. This was ridiculous. I didn't believe in love at first sight. I was a pragmatic person, a software engineer who dealt in logic and code, not emotions and feelings. But something had happened in that examination room, something that felt significant. Maya called that evening, demanding a full report. "So how did it go? Did you survive?" I survived. I was lying on my couch staring at the ceiling, still processing. "The new doctor is competent." "Competent, that's all you have to say." Very professional, thorough. He wants me to come back in 2 weeks for a follow-up. Good. See, was that so hard? She paused. Wait, why are you being weird? I'm not being weird. Nathan Cooper, I've known you since college. You're absolutely being weird. What happened? I debated not telling her, but Maya and I told each other everything and she'd just keep pushing until I caved. The new doctor is hot, like really hot, and I may have had an extremely inappropriate reaction to him during the examination. She squealed so loudly I had to pull the phone away from my ear. Oh my God, details now. There are no details. He's my doctor. It was a professional appointment, that's all. But you're attracted to him. Obviously, but it doesn't matter. There are ethical boundaries. Doctor-patient relationships are. Were there any signs he might be interested back? Maya, no, this isn't happening. I'm not going to pursue my doctor. That's inappropriate on multiple levels. But did he seem gay, bi, interested? I have no idea. We barely talked about anything non-medical. And even if he was interested, which he definitely wasn't, I'm not going to act on it. We'll see about that, Maya said in that knowing tone that always meant trouble. No, we won't. Drop it, please. She didn't drop it, of course. Over the next 2 weeks, she sent me a steady stream of texts. Have you Googled him yet? I bet he has an Instagram. You should bring him coffee at your next appointment. I did Google him, though I'd never admit it to Maya. Dr. James Chen graduated top of his class from Johns Hopkins, completed his residency at Massachusetts General, published several papers on preventive medicine. 32 years old, 3 years older than me. There were few professional photos, conferences, medical panels, a charity fundraiser. No social media that I could find, no indication of his personal life or relationship status. Not that it mattered, I kept telling myself. Even if he was gay or bi, even if he was single, even if by some miracle he was interested, there was the small matter of medical ethics standing between us. The 2 weeks crawled by. I threw myself into work, trying to code away my attraction, but my mind kept drifting back to warm brown eyes and a gentle touch and the way James had said my name. The morning of my follow-up appointment, I spent an embarrassing amount of time choosing an outfit. Just jeans and a sweater, I told myself. Nothing special, except I tried on 4 different sweaters before settling on the dark green one that Maya said brought out my eyes. Nathan, good to see you again. James smiled as he entered the examination room, and my traitorous heart did that flipping thing again. How have you been? Good, fine, great actually. He sat down across from me, tablet in hand. So I got your blood work back and everything looks excellent. Cholesterol is good, blood sugar normal, no red flags anywhere. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. That's a relief. It is. He looked up from his tablet and our eyes met. For a moment, something passed between us, something electric and undeniable. Then he cleared his throat and looked back down. I did want to talk to you about a few things though. Your stress levels seem high based on some of the markers we saw. What do you do for work? Software engineer. I work for a startup, so the hours can be intense. Are you getting enough sleep, exercise, taking time for yourself? Define enough, I said, making him smile. At least 7 hours of sleep, regular physical activity, some form of stress relief that isn't work-related. Then no, probably not enough of any of those things. I thought so. He leaned forward, his expression serious but kind. Nathan, you're young and healthy now, but these patterns have a way of catching up with you. I've seen too many patients in their 40s and 50s dealing with preventable health issues because they didn't take care of themselves in their 20s and 30s. You're very passionate about preventive medicine. It's why I went into family practice. I'd rather keep people healthy than treat them when they're sick. He paused and something shifted in his expression. I'm probably overstepping here, but would you be interested in working with me on a wellness plan? Nothing formal, just some guidance on stress management, sleep hygiene, that kind of thing. I do this with a lot of my patients, especially the ones in high-stress careers. Would that require more appointments? The question came out before I could stop it, and I saw something flicker in his eyes. It would, maybe once a month at least initially, just to check in, see how you're doing, adjust the plan as needed. He held my gaze. Is that something you'd be interested in? Yes, God, yes, any excuse to see you again. Sure, that sounds helpful. Great, his smile was back and I felt warm all over. Let's start with some basics. Tell me about a typical day for you. We talked for almost an hour. James asked questions about my routine, my diet, my exercise habits, my stress levels. He made notes on his tablet, occasionally nodding or making thoughtful sounds. And slowly, gradually, the conversation shifted from purely medical to something more personal. Do you have a support system? He asked. Friends, family, people you can talk to when things get stressful. My best friend Maya, she's the one who made me come to that first appointment. Remind me to send her a thank you card. He said it lightly, but there was something in his tone that made me look up sharply. He seemed to realize what he'd said because a slight flush crept up his neck. I mean, because she got you to come in for a checkup you clearly needed. Right, of course. An awkward silence fell between us. James cleared his throat and stood up, tucking his tablet under his arm. Well, I think that's a good start. Let me put together some recommendations for you and we'll schedule a follow-up for next month. Sound good? Sounds good. He walked to the door, then paused with his hand on the handle. For a long moment he just stood there, his back to me, and I could see the tension in his shoulders. Nathan, he said quietly, not turning around, can I ask you something off the record? My heart started pounding. Sure. That first appointment, did I imagine? He stopped, shook his head. Never mind, forget I said anything, I'll see you next month. He left quickly, leaving me sitting on the examination table, stunned and confused and desperately trying to figure out what he'd almost said. I lasted 2 days before I cracked and called Maya. He almost said something personal, then he stopped himself and practically ran out of the room. What do you think he was going to say? I don't know, that's why I'm losing my mind. What if he was going to ask if I felt the same connection he did? Or what if he was going to tell me I made him uncomfortable and he needs to transfer me to another doctor? Nathan, calm down, you need to see him again. I have an appointment in a month. That's too long, you need to go back before then, find a reason. Maya, I can't just show up at his office, Here's what you do, call and say you've been having headaches, that you want to check in about the wellness plan he mentioned, something. That's manipulative. That's proactive, there's a difference. She paused. Look, you're attracted to him, he's clearly attracted to you. Doctors don't usually spend an hour with patients talking about stress management. Something's there, you owe it to yourself to find out what. And if I'm reading this completely wrong, if I make things awkward and have to find a new doctor. Then you find a new doctor, but at least you'll know. Isn't that better than spending the next month driving yourself crazy wondering? She had a point. 3 days later, I found myself back at Metropolitan Medical Center, my heart pounding as I checked in at the front desk. I called earlier about some concerns with the wellness plan Dr. Chen and I discussed. He said to come in. That was a slight exaggeration. The receptionist I'd spoken to on the phone had said Dr. Chen had a cancellation and could squeeze me in, but she hadn't confirmed whether James had actually requested I come in. Have a seat, he'll be with you shortly. 20 minutes later, a nurse called my name, but instead of taking me to an examination room, she led me to an office, James's office based on the nameplate on the door. He said to have you wait here, he's just finishing up with a patient. The office was small but comfortable, a desk covered in files and medical journals, diplomas on the wall, a few personal photos. I studied them carefully. James with an elderly Asian couple who were probably his parents. James in graduation robes, James at what looked like a medical conference, arm around another man, both of them smiling. The other man was handsome and they looked close, very close. My stomach sank. Of course James was in a relationship. Of course I'd been reading too much into professional kindness. Of course. Nathan, James's voice made me jump. He was standing in the doorway looking surprised and pleased and nervous all at once. They told me you were here. Is everything okay? Are you having symptoms? No, I wanted to talk to you about the wellness plan and, I took a breath, decided to be brave, about what you almost said at my last appointment. His expression shifted, surprise, then concern, then something that looked like resignation. He stepped into the office and closed the door behind him. Nathan, I shouldn't have said anything, that was unprofessional of me. But you were going to say something before you stopped yourself. Yes, he moved to his desk but didn't sit down, just leaned against it, his arms crossed. I was going to ask if you felt it too, the connection between us, but I stopped myself because it doesn't matter if you did. I'm your doctor. There are ethical boundaries I can't cross. The relief that flooded through me was overwhelming, so I didn't imagine it. You felt it too. Of course I felt it. How could I not? His voice was rough. You walked into that examination room and I've been a doctor for 6 years, Nathan. I've seen hundreds of patients, and I've never had this kind of reaction to anyone. It took everything in me to stay professional during that first appointment. The elevated heart rate, I said slowly. When you listened to my heart, you knew it wasn't just nerves about doctors, didn't you? I suspected, a slight smile, but I tried to convince myself I was wrong, that I was projecting my own inappropriate feelings onto you. We stood there looking at each other across the small office, the truth finally out in the open between us. What do we do now? I asked quietly. I don't know. He ran a hand through his hair, disrupting its perfect styling. The ethical thing would be to transfer you to another doctor to maintain professional boundaries. But I don't want to. The words came out fierce, almost angry. I don't want to hand you off to someone else. I don't want to pretend I don't feel this. Then don't. Nathan, it's not that simple. There are rules, guidelines. The medical board takes this kind of thing seriously. If anyone found out that I was involved with a patient, then we wait until I'm not your patient anymore. He looked at me sharply. What are you saying? I'm saying I'll find another doctor, transfer my care, whatever needs to happen to make this okay ethically. Because James, I took a step toward him, I haven't been able to stop thinking about you for 3 weeks, and if there's even a chance that we could be something, I don't want to miss it because of some ethical technicality. It's not a technicality. These rules exist for good reasons. I know, and I respect that, but I'm not vulnerable. I'm not dependent on you for care. I'm a fully autonomous adult who's attracted to another adult. We can handle this the right way. James was quiet for a long moment, clearly wrestling with himself. If we did this, he finally said, we'd have to do it by the book. I'd help you transfer to another doctor in the practice. We'd wait until that transfer was complete and you were officially no longer my patient. Only then could we explore this. I can do that. And even then, we'd need to be discreet. The medical community is small. If word got out that I'd dated a former patient, even if we followed all the rules, it could still impact my reputation. I understand. Do you? He looked at me intently. Because I need you to understand what you'd be signing up for. Secrecy, at least initially, complications, the knowledge that people might judge us if they found out how we met. James, I closed the distance between us until we were just a foot apart. I'm 30 years old, I know what I want, and I want the chance to see where this goes with you. If that means jumping through some hoops and being discreet, I'm okay with that. He searched my face looking for something. Whatever he found must have satisfied him because his expression softened. Okay, he said quietly, okay, let's do this the right way. Transferring to a new doctor should have been simple. In reality, it took 6 weeks. First, James had to find another physician in the practice willing to take me on. Then there was paperwork, forms to fill out, medical records to transfer, official documentation that I was requesting the change of my own accord. James was scrupulous about following every protocol, making sure there was no possible question about propriety. Those 6 weeks were torture. We couldn't see each other outside the medical office, couldn't text or call beyond what was necessary for the transfer. James was adamant that we maintain complete professional boundaries until everything was finalized. But we found ways to communicate. James would add personal notes to official emails about my medical records. I hope you're sleeping better, tucked into a message about my file transfer. I've been thinking about you, hidden in a notification about my new doctor assignment. I'd reply in kind, keeping things subtle but meaningful. Looking forward to the next chapter in response to paperwork confirmations. The wait is worth it, attached to signed consent forms. It was simultaneously thrilling and frustrating, this careful dance we were doing. Every email felt loaded with meaning. Every brief encounter when I had to come to the office to sign something felt charged with electricity. This is ridiculous, I told Maya over coffee. We're both adults, we're attracted to each other, why does it have to be this complicated? Because he's taking his ethical obligations seriously, which is actually really attractive if you think about it. I know you're right, it's just hard. Good things are worth waiting for. Finally, I got the email I'd been waiting for. My transfer to Dr. Patricia Lin was complete. Effective immediately, James Chen was no longer my physician. James sent a separate email 5 minutes later, just one line, dinner tomorrow, 7 p.m. I replied immediately, absolutely yes. I changed my outfit 4 times before James picked me up. We decided to go to a restaurant in the next town over, somewhere we were unlikely to run into anyone from the hospital or his practice. Even though we'd done everything by the book, James wanted to be cautious. You look amazing, he said when I opened the door. He was in dark jeans and a navy sweater, and he'd left his glasses at home, revealing just how beautiful his eyes were. So do you. The drive to the restaurant was filled with nervous energy. We kept starting sentences at the same time, then laughing, then falling into awkward silence. It was clear that both of us felt the weight of this moment. After weeks of waiting and wanting, we were finally here. I'm sorry, James said as we pulled into the restaurant parking lot. I'm nervous. I haven't been on a first date in years. Really, how long? 4 years. I was in a relationship through most of med school and residency. We broke up about 2 years ago, and I've been so focused on establishing my practice that I haven't really dated since. The guy in the photo, I said, remembering, in your office at the medical conference. You noticed that? He smiled slightly. Yeah, that's David. We're still friends, actually. The breakup was mutual. We wanted different things. What did he want? To move back to California where his family is. I wanted to stay here, build my practice. Neither of us was willing to compromise, so we ended it. He turned off the car and looked at me. What about you? Anyone in your past I should know about? A few relationships, nothing serious. The last one ended about a year ago. He wanted someone who was more available, less focused on work. I wasn't ready to change my priorities. And now I'm thinking maybe my priorities were off. I reached over and took his hand. For the right person, I'd make time. His smile was radiant. Come on, let's go eat before I kiss you right here in this parking lot. Dinner was perfect. We talked for hours about our childhoods, our families, our dreams. James told me about growing up in a traditional Chinese-American household, the pressure to become a doctor, which he'd actually wanted anyway, the process of coming out to his parents in medical school. They struggled with it at first, he admitted, not because they didn't love me but because they worried about my future, about discrimination in the medical field, but they've come around. They actually really liked David. My mom was devastated when we broke up. What about your siblings? I have a younger sister, Michelle. She's a lawyer in New York, very overprotective of her big brother, he smiled. She's going to interrogate you thoroughly when she finds out about us. When, not if. I'm optimistic. He squeezed my hand across the table. Tell me about your family. I told him about my parents, both teachers, still happily married after 35 years, about my older brother who was married with 2 kids, about being the baby of the family and the only gay one. They were amazing when I came out, super supportive, sometimes almost too supportive. My mom went through a phase where she kept trying to set me up with every gay man she encountered. James laughed. That sounds adorable and mortifying. It was both. I paused. They're going to love you, by the way, fair warning. Already planning for me to meet your parents. Is that too much too soon? No, his expression was soft. It's perfect. We stayed at the restaurant until they were clearly trying to close. Then James drove us back to the city, but instead of taking me straight home, he parked near the waterfront. Walk with me, he asked. We strolled along the river, hands clasped, talking and laughing and occasionally falling into comfortable silences. It was October, getting cold, and at one point I shivered. James immediately shrugged off his jacket and draped it around my shoulders. I should probably take you home, he said, even though neither of us moved. It's late. Probably. But I don't want this night to end. Me neither. We were standing under a streetlight facing each other. James reached up and gently cupped my face in his hands. I'm going to kiss you now, he said softly, if that's okay. Please. The kiss was everything, soft and sweet and perfect. His lips were gentle against mine, his touch tender, and I felt my entire body light up with want and need and something deeper than simple attraction. When we finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, James rested his forehead against mine. I've been wanting to do that since the moment you walked into my examination room. Took you long enough. He laughed and kissed me again, deeper this time. We made out like teenagers under that streetlight until we were both flushed and breathless and definitely needed to cool down. Okay, James said, his voice rough. Now I really need to take you home before I do something inappropriate in public. Would that be so bad? Yes, because I'm trying to be a gentleman here and you're making it very difficult. I grinned, good. He drove me home, walked me to my door like we were in a 1950s romance. At my doorstep, he kissed me one more time, slow and thorough. Can I see you again? He asked. Tomorrow, I know it's soon, but... Tomorrow, I agreed, and the day after that, and the day after that. I like the sound of that. I watched him drive away, then went inside and immediately called Maya. How was it? She demanded. Perfect. I was grinning so hard my face hurt. Maya, I think I'm falling for him. Already. Already. The next few months were a blur of happiness. James and I fell into a relationship that felt both new and familiar, exciting and comfortable. We saw each other almost every day, dinners after his shift, weekend hikes, quiet nights at my apartment or his place watching movies and talking for hours. We were still discreet about the relationship. James didn't want word getting back to the hospital about how we'd met, so we avoided places where his colleagues might be. It was a small price to pay for the joy of being with him. I'm going to tell my family about you, I said one evening. We were cooking dinner together at my place. Moving around my small kitchen in that synchronized way couples develop. At Thanksgiving, I want them to meet you. James paused in chopping vegetables. Are you sure that's a big step? I'm sure unless you're not ready. No, I'm ready. He set down the knife and pulled me close. I want to meet them. I want them to know how serious I am about you. How serious are you? Very serious, he kissed me softly. I'm falling in love with you, Nathan. I think I've been falling since that first appointment. My heart soared. I'm falling in love with you too. Thanksgiving was perfect. My parents welcomed James with open arms, and my brother Mike was clearly impressed despite his big brother instinct to interrogate anyone dating his little brother. He's a doctor, Mike said, pulling me aside while James was helping our mom in the kitchen. And he looks at you like you hung the moon. I approve. Your approval was definitely what I was waiting for, I said sarcastically, making him laugh and ruffle my hair like we were kids again. James fit seamlessly into my family. He charmed my mother with his manners and his interest in her work. He bonded with my father over their shared love of hiking. He played with my nieces and nephews like he'd known them forever. Your family is wonderful, he said as we drove back to the city that night. Your parents are so warm and your brother is intense but in a caring way. He likes you, he told me so. Good, because I like them too. He reached over and took my hand. Thank you for sharing them with me. They're your family now too, if you want them to be. He squeezed my hand. I do. In December, I met his family. His parents were more reserved than mine but kind and welcoming once they warmed up. His sister Michelle was exactly as advertised, protective and slightly intimidating, asking me pointed questions about my intentions toward her brother. He's been through a lot, she said when she got me alone in the kitchen. The breakup with David really hurt him even if he won't admit it. I don't want to see him hurt again. I don't want to hurt him, I'm in love with him. She studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Okay, I believe you, but if you do hurt him, I know lawyers who can make your life very difficult. Noted. By the time we rang in the new year together, 6 months after that first appointment, we were deeply, completely in love. We'd said the words, made plans for the future, talked about moving in together. I want forever with you, James said as we watched fireworks from his apartment balcony. Is that crazy to know this after 6 months? It would be crazy if I didn't feel exactly the same way. He kissed me as the city celebrated around us, and I thought about how one routine checkup had changed my entire life. Everything was perfect until it wasn't. The first sign of trouble came in February. James came over to my apartment after his shift looking troubled. "What's wrong?" I asked immediately. "Probably nothing, just someone at the hospital mentioned seeing me at that Italian restaurant in Cambridge, the one we go to sometimes." My stomach dropped. Did they see us together? I don't think so, but it made me realize we've gotten maybe too comfortable. We need to be more careful. "James, it's been almost 6 months. How much longer do we have to hide?" "I'm not hiding you," he looked hurt. "I'm just being cautious, my career." "I know, your career is important, I understand that, but I'm tired of feeling like a secret, like something to be ashamed of." "That's not fair, you know it's not about shame." "Then what is it about?" We argued, our first real fight. James insisted he was just being professionally careful. I felt like he was prioritizing his reputation over our relationship. We both said things we didn't quite mean, and James left that night without staying over for the first time since we'd started dating. I barely slept. By morning, I'd convinced myself that I'd ruined everything, that James would realize I was more trouble than I was worth. Then my phone rang. "I'm outside," James said when I answered. "Can I come up?" He looked as exhausted as I felt, his hair messy, still wearing scrubs from an overnight shift. "I'm sorry," he said the moment I opened the door. "You were right, I've been so focused on being careful that I've made you feel like a secret. That was wrong." "I'm sorry too, I know your career matters, I shouldn't have minimized that." "My career does matter, but not as much as you do." He cupped my face in his hands. "Nathan, I love you and I don't want to hide that anymore. We've done everything right, followed all the rules, waited the appropriate time. We don't have anything to be ashamed of." "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying no more hiding, we go where we want, see who we want. If someone from the hospital sees us, so be it, we have nothing to hide." Relief flooded through me. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure. I'm tired of living in fear of what people might think. You're the best thing in my life and I want everyone to know it." We kissed then, and everything felt right again. For about 2 weeks. Then the email came. James called me, his voice tight with stress. "Nathan, we need to talk in person, can you come over?" My heart sank. What happened? "Just come over, please." I drove to his place, breaking probably every speed limit. James opened the door looking pale and shaken. "Someone filed a complaint with the medical board," he said without preamble. "About us, about our relationship and how we met." The world tilted. "What? Who?" "The complaint is anonymous, but someone knows we met when you were my patient and they're claiming our relationship violates ethical guidelines." "But we did everything right, we followed all the procedures." "I know, and I'll fight this, but Nathan," he looked at me with anguish in his eyes, "this is going to get messy. There will be an investigation, my colleagues will find out, my reputation could be damaged even if I'm cleared of wrongdoing." "What are you saying?" "I'm not saying anything, I need you to understand what we're potentially facing." "I'm not going anywhere," I said firmly. "We'll get through this together. It might be easier if we took a break, until this is resolved." The words hit me like a physical blow. "You want to break up?" "No, God, no, He ran his hands through his hair in frustration. "I don't want you to have to deal with this. The scrutiny, the gossip, the investigation, you didn't sign up for this." "I signed up for you," I said fiercely. "All of you, including the complicated parts. I'm not going anywhere, James, we'll fight this together." He pulled me into his arms and I felt him shaking. "I'm scared. I've worked so hard to build my practice, my reputation. If they find even a hint of impropriety." "They won't, because there wasn't any. We did everything by the book. We have documentation of every step we took to ensure the transfer was proper. We waited. We followed every guideline." "I know, you're right." He pulled back to look at me. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have suggested taking a break. I love you and I don't want this to hurt you. The only thing that would hurt me is losing you." The next few weeks were hell. James had to appear before the medical board's ethics committee, providing documentation of my transfer, timeline of our relationship, proof that everything had been done according to protocol. I was called in too, asked pointed questions about our relationship. When did it start? Was I coerced in any way? Did Dr. Chen ever suggest the transfer in exchange for a relationship? Was there any inappropriate contact while I was still his patient? No, I answered firmly to that last question. Dr. Chen was completely professional at all times. He didn't even email me personally until after my transfer was finalized. We have all the records to prove it. The investigator, a stern woman in her 50s, looked at me skeptically. Mr. Cooper, you understand that doctor-patient relationships are strictly prohibited, even after a patient transfers care. I understand there are ethical concerns, but I also understand that the guidelines allow for relationships with former patients in certain circumstances provided specific protocols are followed, which they were. The timing is still concerning. You were Dr. Chen's patient for less than 2 months before transferring. Some might see that as suspicious. Some might see it as two adults who were attracted to each other doing the ethical thing by ending the doctor-patient relationship before pursuing anything personal. I leaned forward. Look, I know how this looks, but James, Dr. Chen, he did everything right. He was so careful about following every rule. He wouldn't even speak to me personally until the transfer was complete. If anyone deserves to be protected here, it's him. The investigation took 3 months. 3 months of stress and anxiety, of James barely sleeping, of both of us constantly checking our phones for updates. 3 months of watching the man I loved suffer under the weight of potentially losing everything he'd worked for. James's colleagues at the practice were supportive, at least. Dr. Lin, who'd taken over my care, vouched for him. The practice administrator provided documentation showing they had official protocols for patient transfers in these situations. James's medical school mentor wrote a letter supporting his character and professionalism. But the gossip was brutal. James couldn't go anywhere in the medical community without people whispering, speculating. Some were sympathetic, others clearly thought he'd done something wrong. They're saying I manipulated the system, James told me one night, lying in my bed staring at the ceiling, that I used my position to pursue a patient. That's not what happened. I know, but perception matters. Even if I'm cleared, some people will always believe I did something unethical. Then those people don't know you. He turned to face me. What if this ruins my practice? What if patients don't want to see me anymore because they think I'm inappropriate? That won't happen. You don't know that. James, I took his face in my hands. Look at me, we're going to get through this. The truth will come out. And even if some people choose to believe the worst, the people who matter, your patients who know you, your colleagues who work with you, your friends and family, they know the truth. I'm so tired, he whispered. I know, me too. Do you ever regret it, meeting me that day? If you just kept your original doctor, none of this would be happening. Never, I kissed him softly. Not for 1 second. You're the best thing that ever happened to me, and I'd go through this investigation 100 times if it meant I got to be with you. Finally, after 3 agonizing months, the decision came. James called me from the medical board office, his voice shaking. They cleared me, no violations found. They said we followed all appropriate protocols and there's no evidence of any impropriety. I sagged with relief, thank God. There's a caveat though. They're requiring that I complete an ethics training course and that the practice implement more formal guidelines for situations like this. But no mark on my record, no suspension, nothing. That's amazing, James, we did it. We did, he sounded exhausted but relieved. It's over, we can finally move on. Except it wasn't quite over. The gossip didn't stop just because James had been officially cleared. There were still whispers, still judgment from some corners of the medical community. But James handled it with grace. He completed his ethics training. He was open with his colleagues about what had happened, refusing to be ashamed, and slowly the talk died down. Dr. Chen saved my son's life, one of his longtime patients said when someone made a comment within earshot. He's the best doctor I've ever known. What he does in his personal life is none of our business. More patients spoke up in his defense, his colleagues vouched for him, and eventually the story of the ethics investigation faded into practice history. But the experience changed us, made us stronger in some ways, more cautious in others. I don't want to go through that again, James said one evening. We were 6 months past the investigation, finally feeling like we could breathe again. The scrutiny, the judgment, it was awful. I know, but we survived it. Barely. He pulled me closer on the couch. Nathan, I need to tell you something, and I need you to be honest about how you feel about it. My stomach tightened. Okay. I've been thinking about leaving the practice, starting my own private practice. I sat up to look at him. Really? I love what I do, I love my patients, but working in that environment, knowing that some of my colleagues still question my judgment, it's exhausting, and I keep thinking about how much more freedom I'd have with my own practice. I could set my own policies, my own hours, be my own boss. That sounds amazing. Why do you need me to be honest about how I feel? Because it would mean a significant pay cut, at least initially. It would mean long hours getting the practice off the ground. It would mean stress and uncertainty. He took my hand. And I know we've been talking about moving in together, maybe getting a bigger place. This would put those plans on hold. James, I squeezed his hand. I don't care about the money or the timing. If you want to start your own practice, I support you completely. We'll figure out the rest. You're sure? Positive, I believe in you, and honestly, after everything we've been through, the idea of you having more control over your career sounds perfect. He kissed me deep and grateful. I love you so much. I love you too. James started the process of opening his own practice that spring, a year after that first fateful appointment. It was stressful and expensive and time-consuming, but watching him build something that was truly his was incredible. I helped where I could, designing his website, setting up his scheduling software, painting the office space he'd rented. We spent weekends hanging artwork and arranging furniture, turning a blank space into a warm, welcoming medical practice. Chen Family Medicine, I said, looking at the sign above the door. It's perfect. You think so? James was nervous, his arms crossed as he surveyed the waiting room. I know so, your patients are going to love it. He was right to be nervous. Starting from scratch was terrifying, but his patients from the old practice followed him, telling their friends and family. Word spread about the doctor who took time with his patients, who listened, who cared. Within 6 months, James's practice was thriving. He hired a nurse practitioner and a part-time receptionist. He had a wait list of patients wanting to transfer their care to him. I can't believe this is real, he said one evening after a particularly busy day. My own practice, my name on the door, patients who chose me because they trust me, not because they were assigned to me. You earned this, every bit of it. We earned it. I couldn't have done this without you, Nathan. You were there through everything, the investigation, the stress of starting up, all of it. You're my partner in every sense of the word. Speaking of partners, I took a breath, nervous about what I was about to ask. What would you think about making it official, the moving in together thing we talked about? His face lit up. Really, you want to? I want to. I'm tired of splitting time between 2 apartments. I want to come home to you every night, wake up with you every morning, build a life together. Yes, he pulled me into his arms. God, yes, let's do it. We found an apartment in the South End, a 2-bedroom with exposed brick and big windows close to James's practice and my office. Moving in together was chaotic and wonderful, our belongings mixing together, our routines blending. You have too many books, James complained good-naturedly as we tried to fit our combined libraries onto one bookshelf. You have too many coffee mugs. They're from different medical conferences, they're sentimental. You have 14 identical white mugs that all say different hospital names on them. And I use all of them. We bickered and laughed and slowly turned the apartment into our home. My blue couch next to his leather armchair, his artwork on the walls next to my photography, our lives fully intertwined for the first time. This is perfect, I said one evening. Both of us collapsed on the couch after a long day of unpacking. Our home. Our home, James agreed, pulling me close. Life settled into a comfortable rhythm. James's practice continued to grow. I got a promotion at work, leading my own development team. We hosted dinner parties for our friends, a mix of James's medical colleagues and my tech industry people, all of them slowly becoming our people rather than his or mine. I can't believe you two are the couple everyone wants to be, Maya said at one of our dinner parties. You do realize you're sickeningly adorable, right? We're aware, James said with a grin, his arm around my shoulders. How did you guys meet again? Someone asked, a new friend who didn't know our history. James and I exchanged a glance. This question still came up occasionally, and we developed a practiced response. At his medical office, James said smoothly, though we didn't start dating until after Nathan transferred to a different doctor. We were very careful about ethics. That must have been complicated. It was, I admitted, but worth it. The conversation moved on, and later, when everyone had gone home and we were cleaning up, James pulled me close. Thank you, he said. For what? For not being ashamed of our story, for not pretending we met somewhere else. Why would I be ashamed? We didn't do anything wrong. I know, but some people still judge. I wouldn't blame you if you wanted to simplify the story. James, our story is complicated and messy and beautiful. I wouldn't change a word of it. He kissed me, soft and sweet. Have I told you lately that I'm in love with you? Not in the last hour, I was starting to wonder. He laughed and kissed me again. I'm in love with you, madly, completely, forever in love with you. Forever, I raised an eyebrow. That's a big promise. I mean it. His expression turned serious. Nathan, I want forever with you, marriage, a house, maybe kids someday, the whole thing. Is that something you want too? My heart was pounding. Are you proposing? Not yet, not properly, but I'm asking if that's the direction you want this relationship to go, because if it's not, I need to know now before I. It is, I cut him off. James, of course it is. I want all of that with you. I want everything. His smile was radiant. Good, because I'm planning something for our anniversary, so don't be surprised if I seem nervous and secretive. You're telling me in advance that you're going to propose. I'm terrible at keeping secrets from you. I've already almost spoiled it 3 times. I laughed, pulling him close. I love you, even when you're bad at surprises. I love you too. Our 2-year anniversary fell in October, exactly 2 years after that first appointment. James insisted on planning everything, telling me only to take the day off work and be ready by 6 p.m. Where are we going? It's a surprise. James. Trust me, you're going to love it. At 6 p.m., a car picked me up, not James driving, but an actual hired car. The driver took me out of the city into the suburbs, following directions I couldn't track. Finally, we pulled up to a small medical office. Not a working one, it was clearly closed, the parking lot empty except for James's car. What is this? I asked the driver. I'm just supposed to tell you to go inside. I got out, confused and curious, and tried the door. It was unlocked. Inside, the waiting room was decorated with photos of us over the past 2 years. Our first official date, Thanksgiving with my family, Christmas with his, vacations and quiet nights in, and every moment in between. James, I called out. Examination room 2, his voice came back. I walked down the hallway, my heart pounding, and pushed open the door to examination room 2. James was standing there in a suit, the room lit with candles, and I realized what this place was. The medical office where we'd met, where it had all started. You rented the place, I breathed. For the evening, I wanted to bring us back to the beginning. He stepped forward, taking my hands. Nathan, 2 years ago you walked into my examination room for a routine checkup, and my entire world changed. I took one look at you and I knew you were going to be important to me. James. Let me finish. He was smiling, but his eyes were wet. These past 2 years have been the best of my life. You've stood by me through an ethics investigation, supported me through starting my own practice, built a home with me. You've loved me at my best and at my worst, and I want to spend the rest of my life loving you back. He dropped to one knee, pulling out a small box. Nathan Cooper, will you marry me? I was crying, my hands shaking. Yes, God, yes, of course, yes. He stood up and kissed me, sliding the ring onto my finger, and I felt like my heart might burst from happiness. I love you, he said against my lips. I love you too, so much. There's more, he said, wiping at his eyes. Come see. He led me back to the waiting room where a door I hadn't noticed before was open. Inside was a private dining room, a table set for 2, candles everywhere. I hired a chef to make dinner, your favorite foods from that first date, the Italian place we went to. He pulled out my chair. I wanted tonight to be perfect. It already is. You're here, you asked me to marry you, and I get to spend the rest of my life with you. How could it be anything but perfect? We ate and talked and laughed, recounting the story of how we'd met, how nervous we'd both been, how hard it had been to wait. Do you ever regret it? James asked. How complicated everything was. Never, not for a second. You're worth every complication, every challenge, every moment of stress. I reached across the table to take his hand. Besides, the complications are part of our story, they made us stronger. They did. He squeezed my hand. Nathan, I promise you I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret saying yes tonight. I already know I won't. You're it for me, James, forever. We told our families the next day. My parents were thrilled, immediately starting to plan the wedding even though we'd just gotten engaged. James's parents were happy but more reserved, his mother already asking about timelines and venues. She's excited, James explained after we'd had dinner with his parents. She just expresses it differently than your family does. I know, and I love your parents, but your mom asked me if we'd considered having the wedding in a church. James winced. I'll talk to her. We're not having a church wedding just to make her comfortable. I don't mind considering it. Nathan, I mind. We've spent enough time worrying about what other people think about following rules and meeting expectations. Our wedding is going to be about us, what we want, what makes us happy. Okay, I kissed him, so what do we want? We ended up planning an outdoor wedding for the following summer. Not too big, not too small, about 100 guests, close friends and family. We found a venue in the countryside, a restored barn with rolling hills and gardens. It's perfect, I said when we went to see it, simple and elegant and us. You're sure we could do something fancier, more traditional? James, I don't want fancy or traditional, I want you, me, and the people we love most, that's all I need. Planning the wedding was surprisingly fun. We argued good-naturedly about everything, flowers versus no flowers compromise, simple greenery, sit-down dinner versus cocktail reception won, first dance versus no first dance. We decided on a first dance but to a song we both loved, not a typical wedding song. Your need to debate every detail is exhausting, I told James after a particularly long discussion about whether to have assigned seating. You love my attention to detail. I love you despite your attention to detail. Liar, he pulled me into his lap. You love that I care about making this perfect. I do, I admitted, even when it makes me crazy. The engagement period flew by. We sent out invitations, booked vendors, picked out suits. My brother agreed to be my best man and James asked his sister Michelle. We wrote our own vows, James spending weeks perfecting his until I had to physically take away his notebook. They're beautiful, stop rewriting them. But I want them to be perfect. James, you could read the phone book as your vows and I'd still cry. I'm marrying you, not your words. The phone book doesn't exist anymore. You know what I mean. He laughed and pulled me close. Thank you for putting up with my neurotic need to get everything right. Thank you for caring enough to be neurotic. The morning of the wedding, I woke up in my childhood bedroom. James and I had decided to spend the night before apart, staying with our respective families, building up the anticipation. Nervous, my brother Mike asked over breakfast. Terrified, excited, both. That's normal, I felt the same way when I married Sarah, he studied me. You're sure about this, about James? More sure than I've ever been about anything. Good, because I really like him. If you screw this up, I'm keeping him and disowning you. I laughed, noted. The ceremony was at 5 p.m. As the time approached, I got more nervous, second-guessing every decision. What if my vows weren't good enough? What if I cried too much? What if I tripped walking down the aisle? Nathan, my mom took my face in her hands. Stop spiraling, you're marrying the man you love, that's all that matters, everything else is just details. She was right. When I walked down the aisle and saw James waiting for me, all the anxiety melted away. He looked incredible in his navy suit. His eyes bright with tears, the biggest smile on his face. Hi, he mouthed as I reached him. Hi, I mouthed back. The ceremony was beautiful. Our friend Rachel officiated, telling stories about us that made everyone laugh and cry. We exchanged rings, our hands shaking with emotion. Then it was time for vows. James went first. Nathan, 2 years ago you walked into my life and changed everything. I thought I knew who I was, what I wanted, where I was going. And then I met you and I realized I'd been waiting my whole life for you without even knowing it. You've supported me through the hardest time in my career. You've believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. You've loved me with a generosity and kindness that still takes my breath away. You're my best friend, my partner, my home. And I promise to spend the rest of my life being worthy of the love you've given me. I promise to support your dreams and celebrate your victories. I promise to hold you through hard times and laugh with you through good ones. I promise to be honest, to be present, to be yours, forever. I was crying before he finished. When it was my turn, I had to take a moment to compose myself. James, someone once told me that good things are worth waiting for. I waited 2 years for you, 2 years from the moment we met until the moment we could be together. And you were worth every second of that wait. You're brilliant and kind and so careful with other people's hearts. You've shown me what it means to be brave, to be authentic, to fight for what matters. You've given me a home, a future, a love I never knew was possible. And I promise to spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret taking a chance on me. I promise to be your safe place when the world is hard. I promise to make you laugh and hold you when you cry and stand by your side through whatever comes. I promise to love you forever, not just today, not just tomorrow, but every day for the rest of our lives. The officiant pronounced us married, and we kissed to thunderous applause. The reception was a blur of joy, dancing, toasting, laughing with friends and family. James's mother cried and hugged me tight, telling me in Mandarin that I was her son now too. My dad gave a speech about how he'd known from the moment he met James that he was the one. Look at how he looks at Nathan, my dad said, his voice breaking. Like Nathan hung the moon and stars, that's how you know it's real love. We danced our first dance to the song James had played on our second date. We cut the cake, smashing it in each other's faces like children to everyone's delight. We made toasts to our families, to the friends who'd supported us, to the love that had brought us here. As the night wound down, James pulled me aside onto the terrace. "Hey husband," he said, the word making us both smile. "Hey husband," I kissed him softly, "how are you feeling?" Like the luckiest man alive, he wrapped his arms around me. "We did it, we're married." "We're married," I repeated, still not quite believing it. "I have something for you," he pulled out a folded piece of paper. "I didn't want to give this to you in front of everyone." I unfolded it. It was a photocopy of my medical chart from that first appointment with a note James had written in the margins. "The day my life changed, I love you, Jay." Tears filled my eyes. "You kept this." "I made a copy before I transferred your care. I know it's probably against some regulation, but I wanted to remember the day we met, the day everything began. I love you so much." "I love you too," he kissed me deeply. "Come on, let's go thank our guests and then get out of here. I have plans for our wedding night." "Oh really?" "Really?" His smile was wicked, "starting with getting you out of that suit." We honeymooned in Italy, 2 weeks of wine and pasta and wandering through ancient cities. We visited Rome, Florence, the Amalfi Coast. We ate too much, drank too much, made love in beautiful hotel rooms with views of the Mediterranean. "This is perfect," I said one evening. We were in Positano, sitting on our balcony watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. "It really is." James had his arms around me, both of us relaxed in a way we rarely were at home. "Thank you for marrying me. Thank you for asking me. Should we do this every year, come back to Italy for our anniversary? Every year might be excessive, but maybe every few years, keep the magic alive." "Nathan, the magic isn't in Italy, it's in you, in us. We could be anywhere and it would be perfect as long as we're together." I turned to kiss him. "You're very romantic when you've had wine." "I'm very romantic all the time, you just don't always notice because I'm usually tired from work." "Fair point." We spent the rest of the evening on that balcony talking about our future, where we wanted to live long-term, whether we wanted kids, what our life would look like in 5 years, 10 years, 30 years. "I want kids," James said. "I've always wanted to be a father, but only if you want them too." "I do, I think you'd be an amazing dad." "What about you, do you think you'd be a good dad?" "I hope so, I mean I have good models, my parents, my brother, and you'd be there to keep me from screwing up too badly." "We'd screw up together," James said with a laugh. That's what parenting is from what I hear, just trying your best and hoping you don't mess them up too much. Sounds terrifying. It does want to do it anyway. With you, absolutely. We started the process of becoming foster parents about a year after the wedding. It was something we discussed extensively, weighing the options: adoption versus fostering, international versus domestic, infant versus older children. I want to foster, James said finally. There are so many kids in the system who need stable homes, and we have the resources and the love to provide that. It's going to be hard, I warned. Taking in kids who have been through trauma, not knowing how long they'll stay, potentially having to say goodbye. I know, but we can handle hard, we've proven that. The certification process was intensive: background checks, home studies, training classes. We learned about trauma-informed care, attachment disorders, the complexities of working with biological families. Are you sure you're ready for this? The social worker asked during our home study. Fostering isn't for everyone, it requires a special kind of strength. We're ready, James said, reaching for my hand. We want to do this. Our first placement came 3 months later. A little girl named Sophie, age 6, who'd been removed from her home due to neglect. She arrived with everything she owned in a plastic garbage bag, her eyes wary and defensive. Hi Sophie, I said, crouching down to her level. I'm Nathan and this is James, we're really happy you're here. She said nothing, just clutched her garbage bag tighter. Those first few weeks were brutal. Sophie barely spoke, wouldn't let us touch her, had nightmares every night. She hoarded food in her room, convinced we wouldn't feed her. She flinched whenever we moved too quickly. I don't know if we can do this, I admitted to James one night after another difficult bedtime. She's so damaged, what if we can't help her? Then we love her anyway, we create safety for her even if she can't accept it yet. We show up day after day and we prove to her that we're not going anywhere. James was right. Slowly, incrementally, Sophie started to trust us. She stopped hoarding food. She let James read her bedtime stories. She started calling us by our names instead of maintaining stony silence. 3 months in, she crawled into my lap while I was reading on the couch. Just climbed up and settled in like it was the most natural thing in the world. I froze, afraid to move and break the spell. Nathan, she said quietly. Yeah, sweetheart. Are you and James going to send me away? My heart broke. No, Sophie, we're not going to send you away. Promise. I promise you can stay here as long as you need to, as long as you want to. She burrowed closer. Good, because I like it here with you and James. James appeared in the doorway, saw us on the couch, and smiled with tears in his eyes. Sophie stayed with us for 8 months, long enough to settle into school, make friends, start to heal. Then her aunt, a relative we hadn't known existed, came forward wanting to take her in. She has family, the social worker explained. Blood family who wants her, the courts will prioritize that. But she's happy here, James argued. She's thriving, why uproot her again? Because family matters, and Sophie's aunt seems stable, employed, genuinely wanting to do right by Sophie. Saying goodbye to Sophie was one of the hardest things we'd ever done. She cried and clung to us. And we promised to stay in touch, to visit when we could. I don't want to go, she sobbed into James's shoulder. I know, sweetheart, but your aunt loves you, she's going to take good care of you. But I love you too, you and Nathan. We love you too, I managed through my tears. So much, and that doesn't go away just because you're not living with us anymore. After Sophie left, the house felt too quiet. We'd only had her for 8 months, but she'd filled our home with life and noise and love. That was brutal, I said that night. Both of us collapsed on the couch. It was, James pulled me close. Do you want to stop? I'd understand if this is too hard. No, we can't stop. There are too many kids who need homes. We just have to learn to love them and let them go when it's time. Even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts, because that means we loved them the way they deserve to be loved. Over the next 3 years, we fostered 5 more children. Some stayed for weeks, others for months. We loved each of them fiercely, helped them heal what we could, and said goodbye when the time came. Then came Marcus. He was 13 when he came to us, angry, defiant, convinced the world was against him. He'd been in 7 foster homes in 4 years. His file was thick with behavioral problems, school suspensions, fights. "Are you sure you want to take him?" the social worker asked. "He's a lot to handle." "We're sure," James said. "Marcus tested us from day one. He broke curfew, talked back, started fights at school. He pushed and pushed, waiting for us to give up like everyone else had. We didn't give up." "I don't like you," Marcus said one night after James had grounded him for sneaking out. "That's okay," James replied calmly. "You don't have to like me, but you do have to follow the rules." "Why? So you can feel like a good person for taking in a reject." "Because this is our home, and in our home we treat each other with respect." "This isn't my home, it's just another place I'm staying until you decide you don't want me anymore." "Marcus," I sat down across from him, "we're not giving up on you. No matter how hard you push, no matter what you do, we're not going anywhere." "Everyone says that, then they send me away." "We're not everyone." It took 6 months before Marcus started to believe us. 6 months of consistency, of showing up, of loving him even when he made it nearly impossible. The turning point came when Marcus got into a fight at school, a bad one that resulted in a suspension and a meeting with a juvenile court judge. We sat beside him in court, held his hand while the judge lectured him, and brought him home instead of letting the system place him somewhere else. "Why didn't you let them take me?" Marcus asked that night. "I messed up, I broke the rules, you should have sent me away." "Because we love you," James said simply. "And when you love someone, you don't give up on them when things get hard." "But I'm not even yours, not really." "Marcus, look at me." I waited until he met my eyes. "You are ours, you've been ours since the day you walked through that door. The fact that you don't share our DNA doesn't make that any less true." Something broke in Marcus's expression. He started crying, really crying, the kind of deep sobs that come from